Hey strangers, welcome finally to another episode of the Strange Sessions. As always, I am Kurt, and I am joined by my hopefully non-contagious co-host, Krista.
I'm alive.
She is alive. And we have a special guest co-host today. It is our very dear friend and our fellow member in Heartland Paranormal Investigations, Rhonda Zahn.
Hello.
Thank you for coming on the show, Rhonda.
Rhonda
Thanks for letting me come.
We're excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here.
So what was wrong?
Awkward pause.
I had the norovirus.
I'm not even sure what that is. Are you
Just Google it. I don't want to go into the nitty gritty details.
Not good.
It's not pleasant. But yeah, I was knocked out for like 5-6 days. So
You were really sick.
yeah, it was bad. There was a scary day in there actually where my husband was like, "Do I need to take you to the ER?" And of course I was like, "No." But
That's what I would be
it's
like
all
too.
good. I'm all recovered. I'm good.
She was going towards the light. They were beckoning her, and she said, "I can't. I have my podcast. We got to do.
I need to go back and talk about what I saw in the light now.
We need to have a show about near-death experiences
Yeah, we
too."
should. Ooh. Rhonda's into it.
She is.
So do we have any housekeeping?
Not really.
It's been so long, I don't know.
It's weird. It's
I
only
don't
been. It's
remember.
only been. We only missed 1 week. For
I know,
the
but we
episode,
record-
but it feels like it's been forever since we've done this.
Yeah, because we record every other week. So you
Yeah.
miss a week, and it's actually kind of a long time.
Well, then the week after, we had scheduling conflicts, and we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't make it. So here we are.
We're here.
I don't think we have to worry about snow anymore. But
Nope.
you never know.
You never know. It is only May in Wisconsin. I just want to thank all of our listeners for being really patient and super supportive during...
Yeah, and for posting so much on the message boards.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
As far as housekeeping, I don't think we really have any. It's been a year this week.
I know, that's crazy
Since
since
our
we
first
started.
episode.
That doesn't seem right.
No.
Seems
awesome.
less than that.
I say
yeah.
congratulations.
Thank
on
you.
a successful first year. That's really exciting.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm surprised at where the podcast has gone.
I am too.
How
Like I
many
said in the
fans we have.
Facebook post, I didn't think anybody was going to listen.
Yeah,
So I'm thankful that people are.
it's very cool.
So thank you guys for tuning in.
Should we do new stranger shout outs?
We got a lot of stranger shout.
know.
A lot of strangers. I think we're like 96 or 97.
We keep hovering between 96
yeah,
and
but then we keep
97.
like
I don't
mysteriously
know how
somebody
that
keeps
happens.
leaving. There's like
Right.
yeah.
And then they come back.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I'm not sure what's
I
going
think
on there.
it's the government or HARP or something.
It's got to be. It's the Illuminati. All right. So I apologize in advance. I'm going to butcher most of these names, but we've got Carrie Hess, Nicole Enders, who is one of my best friends in the whole world, Nikki B, as we call her.
Thanks, Nikki B.
Yes, so excited that she's listening. Love you to death. Miranda Enfers.
And fours.
Enfors,
She
friend
is
of Kurt's.
my very best friend. So thank you for listening, Miranda.
What took you so long to join Miranda?
Well, she was mad because she didn't know we had a secret group.
Oh, really?
And I was talking about it, and she's like, "Why am I not in there?" So I had
It's
to
a
put her
little
in
too
there.
secret, apparently.
It was on a need-to-know basis, and she didn't need to know.
Oh, take that. All right. Andy Sharp Kakan? Kakan? I don't know. Like I said.
Cason?
Cason?
I don't know.
Okay. Brittany Gonzalez. That's easy. Jennifer Afarin. Kate Fallon. Mike Lee. Stephanie Mira Prinz. I love how I say them all with a
I'll do
question
the names
mark
next
at the
time.
end. Thank you.
I think the YouTube commenters are right about Krista. You know what I'm talking about.
She's a bit slow.
Ouch.
Madeline Marie, Eve Davis, Wander Lennox. That's a really cool name.
Yeah.
Love that
Tanya
name.
Peterson and Brandy Slater. So really welcome you guys.
Yes, thank you for
we love
joining
having
the
new
group.
strangers, and we only know 2 of them, so that's exciting.
So thank you for joining the group.
Yeah.
Rhonda, tell us about yourself.
Oh my God.
We always have these hosts on, and we never ask them, like, who are you?
Who are you?
What's your story?
We're not sure. She was just here wandering the school, so
Well, Kurt and I go way back.
yeah, to 11th grade, I believe.
Yeah.
1987.
7. Mm-hmm. High school sweethearts. No, just kidding.
I was 2. I was busy listening to Poison and Whitesnake and
Yeah.
Whatever. Scrubby, as our
my own
high
nickname.
school gang would.
Yep,
No one
I was
appreciate
Scrubby,
it.
the Scrubster.
I don't know. I think you and my hubby Mark and Matt had originally talked about starting a paranormal group.
Yeah, yep. And we
And
started. It was East Central Wisconsin Paranormal Investigations.
And at first it's, you guys, boys, just go play, have fun. And then after I think your first investigation, and I heard all of it, it's like, okay, I think I might want to do this. So,
And then Krista ended up joining the group. And
So by then it was Heartland Paranormal Investigations.
yes.
Yep. And we all hit it off immediately.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Day
we
one,
really did.
we clicked
We
right
really
away.
did.
And that was, 10 plus years ago?
Yeah.
So.
That's depressing.
Amazing.
No, it's not. It's awesome.
It is awesome. But thank you for coming on the show finally.
Thank you for having
And
me.
so, by the way, Rhonda's daughter is Brittany, who we've mentioned on this podcast several
She
times.
told me I had to do a shout out.
Oh,
she's like,
and
make
you
sure
forgot?
I haven't had a chance yet. So,
Yep.
hey, Britt. And if I can do a shout out to my cousin, I know who listens to Sarah.
We met Sarah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
at the party? Okay.
Yes. And she was
Awesome.
very fan struck when she met Krista
That's
last
so
year.
funny.
At our
Who isn't?
housewarming
Everybody
party.
is.
I know, right? I can't help but love Krista.
Except that one
True
guy
story.
on YouTube.
The
Yeah,
hater.
except for that.
The hater.
Yeah.
The hater. No, he needs
Cool.
a life. Obviously, he's not a good judge of character.
Right?
So.
Can't spell millennial either.
No, that's just sad.
But I'm not bitter or anything.
Housekeeping.
I could mention the True Crime Crew, I guess.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
we'll talk. Ready?
I'm ready.
Ready? Ready?
Ready? Okay.
I might even leave that in. That was cute. But no, we're planning on some things coming down the road for the podcast. We've been talking about a possible new logo,
Yeah.
which is awesome and exciting. And
Did somebody offer to do it for us?
yes,
BDZ.
It was BDZ.
Brittany.
That's
Yep.
right.
yeah,
On
Little
Facebook. I forgot
graphic
about
designer.
that. Yeah, that'd be
yeah.
awesome.
Our old
Just-
one, the one that I made with the background, was intended just to be a placeholder until we found something
cool,
we
It is
liked.
cool.
I like it.
But all it is I don't remember if I mentioned this on the show. All it is I have a picture of the sunset through the trees in the woods, and I just made it.
Negative.
I made a negative of it, and I was like, "Ooh, that looks kind of
Very
badass. We're gonna
Tales
keep
from
that."
the dark side.
Yeah. So we're looking at a new logo.
We're talking about merchandise.
Talking
Thank you all
about
for
merchandise.
voting. Did we talk about that?
Thank you so much for all the votes for the
Life-size
life-size
Kurt
doll. So,
Slightly disturbing, but
Yeah.
Very
whatever.
scary. Yes.
but t-shirts won
Yeah,
by a
t-shirts,
long shot, which is
mugs.
awesome.
I know that.
Coffee mugs.
Yes, yeah, coffee mugs for sure. Who was it that wanted a bottle opener? Was that our girl Bridget in California?
I
think
remember
so.
because Nikki and I said, because we always, when we watch our Survivor and Big Brother Wednesday nights, we always drink beer, so we're always looking for a bottle opener. So
Sweet.
it'd be nice to have one on hand for that.
We promise this summer we'll get some merchandise made, even if it's
Yeah.
only one of those things to start
Yeah.
with. But
But yeah, we want to offer it as prizes,
yeah,
that kind of stuff.
totally. And to buy.
I was going to say, are people,
To buy.
are people going to be able
I'm
to
not
purchase
against that at all.
too?
So many people have brought up like having additional
A Patreon or
like
whatever.
a Patreon
Yeah.
thing, and I just can't. I just don't like that idea. I've never liked that. I don't like the idea of charging somebody to listen to us, even if it's just extra bonus material. I mean, if you really like it, you can come and hang out with me for a day for free and listen to us babble.
Right.
That's
That's what merchandise is for. If you
yeah,
ask
that's
me.
what merchandise is
Free
for.
advertising.
Yeah.
We should save some of our when we're getting the recording set up and we're talking stupid and
That would have to be
very-
the explicit
Because it's
version.
very- it's
PG-13
very
and
interesting,
very
yeah.
R-rated. That could maybe be a little bonus thing.
I should mention another thing coming down the pipeline is the True Crime Crew podcast I'm working on with Jeff and Joe from Paranormal Palaver.
Hey, Jeff and Joe.
Hey guys, but we have hey Joe. Jeff doesn't listen to this. Just saying. But we've got 4 episodes recorded. We're planning on doing a mass release of the first season this fall. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Cannot wait. And now it's time for our taste test. Rhonda's going to sit in on this one. This one's really not that bad.
Oh,
He
God.
says that
I'm
It's not.
really
I don't think.
scared.
Man. Okay, I passed out the cups. So
These
it's-
are really nice cups, actually.
I know. I was just thinking the same thing. I was impressed. Kurt,
These are coffee
Chinette.
cups, aren't they?
they are Chinette.
Wow.
Those are,
Boy, big spender.
they have those.
I feel honored.
I know. I have no idea.
They have
you had
those
such
now
nice-
in the cake section. They have those mug cakes that you just like mix a little water in and you
Oh,
put
and
in
you put it in the microwave? Yeah.
and that's what these are for. I had a bunch of these at home.
Looks like a good to-go coffee mug.
It is because
This
sometimes
is riveting
I like
for our listeners, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take a picture. At least then they have something to reference.
Because this is
sometimes
these
I
are
bring-
fancy for Kurt. so
Sometimes I
this
bring
is-
smoothies on my way to work, or I bring tea, or I bring coffee. So I kind of wanted these.
So now you buy your little cakes that you can bake for the
Yeah.
cups.
Yeah,
that
I
you're
put
doing. You're
those in there,
buying.
too. Yeah.
That's what you really.
They have a pancake one that is so freaking good.
a pancake that you make in a cup.
Yeah, it's like a
Pancake
mug,
in a cup. I can
pancake
get behind
in a cup,
that.
and it's really good. It tastes perfect.
Yum.
Okay.
So tonight's is kombucha. We got another
boy.
kombucha to try. I looked up how to pronounce it because I didn't know if it was kombucha or kombucha. It is kombucha.
Kombucha? Okay.
It is
Oh God.
the Brew Doctors, Townsend's Tea Company, the Brew Doctor Kombucha Happiness.
Okay, let me take a picture before you bust that
I'll
thing
read the
open.
ingredients.
Okay.
Very simple ingredients.
Wait. Maybe we should drink it first and then
No. Well,
tell the ingredients.
yeah, let's do
Yeah,
that.
let's do that.
Please.
Let me take a picture.
Because there's something in here that's...
Because
Yeah,
Rhonda
yeah.
won't drink it. She knows what the
Yeah.
ingredients
No.
are.
No. Let's
Wait,
let.
wait. Let me take a picture.
Does that have to be? Does shake? Do you have to
No,
shake
it
it
says
up?
do not shake.
Oh, do not shake. All
It's
right.
like weirdly carbonated.
All right.
All kombucha
Where
is like weirdly...
is that
Okay.
Like in the organic
Strange
section.
Sessions bottle opener? Now,
Right?
We could,
If
see,
only
we could
we had
totally
a bottle
use-
opener.
We should
If
just make
only
a
we-
Strange Sessions bottle opener for
We
us.
should. And for Bridget, because she requested. it.
Right.
All right.
By the way, follow her on Instagram. She's got a really cool Instagram page.
It looks like really weak beer.
Rhonda's belching in anticipation.
You heard that, huh? Sorry.
Totally. I'm not letting that fly.
You are going to edit that out, right? Kurt?
We'll
I
see.
hope.
Hells
I
to
may
the
forget to
no.
edit that.
My little inner belch.
It probably
Such a
didn't-
lady.
It probably wasn't picked up on the microphone.
There's very few ingredients in here, but there's one that was like interesting. So
I'm gonna
I want to
smell
see
it.
what you think.
It's foamy. Oh,
It smells like a
it
cider.
smells like beer.
like
It smells
Am
like
I
a cider.
gonna be
Like
pulled over for
Apples.
drunk driving on the way home?
how is that different than
Can
the
you
other
hear
night for you?
Krista sniffing?
You ready?
Okay, ready?
Do we have to like swirl it like a good wine, or
You have to invite the bouquet into your nose.
To plug your nose, probably.
Ready?
okay?
Okay.
This is the
Cheers.
Brew Doctor Kombucha Happiness.
Okay, go.
Right. Oh, that's good.
That's not bad.
No, and I can't taste.
It's not sweet at all.
No, and I can't taste what I thought was kind of the weird ingredient on there. The ingredients are.
Wait, let Krista finish. Let us finish before you.
It's not a weird. It's not like a bad ingredient.
Okay.
The ingredients are filtered water, organic white tea, organic cane sugar, live probiotic cultures, and organic rose.
Rose.
So there is rose
I
in
don't
it.
taste the rose. at
No,
all.
I thought it would be like more.
I don't smell it either.
Probiotic culture, though. We're all gonna be running to the restroom like
Right.
next.
I can edit that out.
Okay.
The running to the restroom part. Our voice is fading into the distance. All you can hear are
Actually,
footsteps.
really good.
No, it's really good. It's not as strong as normal kombucha.
No, and it does have
it's
like
not
it
super
does
sweet.
taste like a cider, like an alcoholic cider drink. Mm-hmm. It is way better than I expected.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay.
Okay,
We approve.
out
I'm
of-
gonna
out
save
of-
it to sip on.
Out of 10?
Me too.
I'm gonna give it, just because I don't really love carbonated drinks, like a 7.
Rhonda?
I don't know. It's pretty tasty. I'm gonna go with I think an 8.
I'm going to go with a 9 because I
Ooh.
really like it.
It's good.
And there's like hardly
It's better
any
than some of the
ingredients.
other crap you've made me drink.
Right?
They're not all going to be weird. They're not
I
all
was
gonna be
really
weird.
nervous about the. Yeah. I was like,
If you show up with a salmon kombucha, we're done.
Oh, I would try that in a heartbeat.
you would.
Yep.
Of course you
Really?
would.
Of course you would. Can't help it. Okay.
And we're at the end of after we discuss the
our
topic.
questions.
After the discussion,
Yeah.
After today's topic, we will have our listener. I keep calling them viewers. Our listener questions.
Sweet.
Now we're gonna be burping throughout the podcast.
I have to edit
What's
all
it
my.
called? Kabuka? Kabucha?
Your
What?
heavy breathing.
Not my heavy breathing, my gurgly stomach. So today's topic is Lake Michigan Triangle. This was first suggested by listener Becky Rutherford.
Thank you,
She
Becky.
is a Wisconsin girl, born and raised in Wisconsin. So
Okay.
I actually didn't know about this until it was on the show Ancient Aliens one night. They actually mentioned it on there, and I was like, holy crap. because one of the points is Manitowoc.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So that is what we are going to be discussing tonight. And Rhonda actually works for the car ferry,
SS
which
Badger.
is one of the edges of the triangle from here to Ludington. So that's very cool.
So
It
we're
is.
lucky she's here at all.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
She hasn't disappeared out on like
No,
right?
We're going to grill her
Some
tonight because
miracle.
she knows about it, and they told her not to
got
tell
the-
anybody. So
Yeah, we
the
roofied you
X-Files.
totally.
Oh, awesome. Just record whatever you're going to do to me.
So, Lake Michigan is one of the 5 Great Lakes of North America and the only one located entirely within the United States.
Oh,
I knew
sure.
that. Lake
others are
Michigan is the 3rd largest Great
Canada,
Lake
right?
by
Yeah.
surface area and the 6th largest freshwater lake in the world. It has a surface area of 22,404 square miles. The lake's average depth is 279 feet, while its greatest depth is 923 feet.
Damn.
Yeah. 923 feet is really deep for a lake.
Yeah, I love Lake Michigan. I just think it's so beautiful.
There,
That
It's
deepest point,
massive.
actually, because I was telling Kurt that we actually have a really cool picture that hangs in the ticket office in Manitowoc for the car ferry that has the actual depths. And I think the deepest part is like right off of like Kewanee.
really?
Yeah, so just north of Manitowoc is
Okay.
like where that deepest part of the lake would be, like kind of like halfway between.
I didn't know it was that close. There are 2 passenger and vehicle ferries that operate ferry services on Lake Michigan, both connecting Wisconsin on the western shore with Michigan on the east.
But of course, the car ferry Badger
Badger.
is the better of the 2. We got to say that. Hello.
I love the Badger.
Just saying.
I've never been on any of them.
You
We'll
should.
talk
I
after
know,
the
you
show.
should.
we
I
should.
can
I
hook
went.
you
I
up.
went on. I did the day trip just a couple years ago where I just went across and came back, and it was so. It was
Honestly-
amazing because at night I loved it. That even though it was like July or whenever it was, it's cold. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
the
it's
lake is
cool.
cold, yeah.
And because it was so cool, there was nobody out on the deck. I was the only one literally on the deck, laying in a chair looking at the stars, and you can see so many stars out there because they didn't have the lights
that
on
would
the
be
boat, so
amazing,
it was.
yeah.
I could see satellites.
Sure.
It was just beautiful. So I really want to do that
It's
again.
usually at least 10 degrees cooler out.
Yeah, I
on
was
the lake
surprised how
than-
cold
yeah,
it was.
than on shore. So
The lake is 307 miles long by 118 miles wide, with a shoreline of 1,640 miles.
Damn.
I know, that's pretty big. It's often referred to as the third coast. And it's been estimated that the lake contains over 2,000 shipwrecks.
Wow.
yeah, I didn't realize there was that many.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like researching the lake, I see the lake literally every day, because my apartment is like right near the lake. So anytime I drive somewhere, I see the lake.
Can you see it from your?
No, I can't
window?
see it from my window, but when I go to Memorial Drive, it's like
Because
right
you're like
there.
literally like a block
Yeah,
away
I'm like
from
literally
Lake
a
Michigan.
block away
Yeah.
from it. So, like researching this, it's just weird how I don't realize how important that was. I mean, people lived or died by the lake, by shipping, by all that stuff. And so many people died on the lake. And I just take for granted how important it was back in the day. I mean, it still is.
Sure.
But back when you were shipping stuff across back and forth, that was like a big thing.
I don't think people realize how nasty it can get out on
Right.
the
Lake
lake.
Michigan is weird because when it's like a nice sunny day, it's beautiful. When you see the sun, on the water and stuff, it's beautiful. But when it's like a foggy, gray day, it's really kind of creepy. Like the lake is
it's
actually
depressing.
really
It can be
the lake
depressing,
is
but it can be
depressing and it is creepy.
And the waves can get really big out
Yeah.
on the lake too.
Yeah.
So I have some video that I took last time we had like a major storm come through, and it's crazy.
One of the gentlemen I work with, one of the mates on the ship, I actually talked to him a little bit about the Lake Michigan Triangle, but he was telling me that waves can get up to 20 feet
Yeah, it's
easily
crazy.
on the lake.
Wow.
Well, and
Yeah.
speaking of
I
that,
hate to be on the ship during that.
Sheboygan
been
is
there.
the freshwater surfing capital of the world.
That is so
Did
cool.
you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's
People actually
tournaments.
surf down
Yeah, people come from all over the world to surf
Seriously?
in Sheboygan. Yes,
there? I didn't
it's
know that.
crazy.
I think that's cool.
I'll
It
have
is really
I'm
cool.
gonna have to wax my board and come down. There.
Yeah. What
Is that
board are
like
we
Kurt
talking
speak
about?
or something?
Wow, explicit.
We're talking about waxing your surfboard. What are you talking about?
Waxing my board. So now the start of the Lake Michigan Triangle stuff. On a chilly day in May 1891, a ship named the Thomas Hume left Chicago after dropping off a load of lumber and began the trip back home to Muskegon, Michigan. The three-masted, 132-foot-long schooner had been built in 1870 in the town of Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Rhonda and I, it's our hometown.
Woot woot.
Known for our boats and killers, pretty much.
Serial? No, not a serial.
Nice.
That's for true crime. True crime.
crime,
We can
yes.
discuss that.
Yeah.
Traveling alongside the Thomas Hume was another ship named the Rouse Simmons, which would ironically also go on to become another one of the most well-known shipwrecks in Lake Michigan history, and that's the Christmas tree ship.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that sunk like right off of Two Rivers, like right down the road from my apartment.
Wow.
They have a plaque like by the lighthouse there where the ship sunk.
Really?
Yeah, and that's like a well-known, locally well-known.
Well, obviously not really
that
well known.
well-known.
I was born and raised in Manitowoc, and it's like, really?
Edmonds Fitzgerald, is that in Lake Michigan?
Lake Superior.
Lake Superior.
Yeah. That's another
Sorry.
great.
Now I have that song in my head.
I know, right? Thanks, Krista. First it was Love Shack, and now it's Edmonds Fitzgerald.
Yeah, Krista put Love Shack in her head earlier.
B-52s, man.
So, although the weather had been quiet, a sudden storm whipped up. The Rouse Simmons wisely decided not to chance it, and they turned around and headed back to Chicago. The Thomas Hume continued their course, and when the ship didn't arrive in Muskegon at the designated time, a rescue ship was sent out. The rescue ship returned without finding the ship or any trace of a capsized ship or a wreckage, which is usually found in these situations. The owners of the ship, lumber barons Charles Hackley and Thomas Hume, who named the ship after himself, apparently.
Clearly.
Wow.
Vain much.
Dick moved.
Narcissist.
They offered a $300 reward for any information on the lost vessel, believing that the ship's crew may have stolen, repainted, and renamed it. Wow. Weed out your employees a little better. But nobody...
We have our own pirates here in Lake Michigan.
Nobody had any information about the ship. Over the years, the legend of the disappearance of the Thomas Hume continued to grow. Then, in 2006, a sunken schooner was found that seemed to match the Thomas Hume, but it couldn't be 100% identified. Divers set out to find the ship's registration number carved on the deck, but that task required scraping away thousands of zebra mussels.
Ooh.
Wow, that's a crappy job.
So they were like, nah.
Not worth it.
I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I'd be
I'm glad we really
we're
need to
good
know
not
if this
knowing. We're good not knowing. So although the number has yet to be found, it is believed that the sunken ship is the Thomas Hume.
Interesting.
So that was like one of the very first cases that shows up in this. It was the sinking and disappearance of the Thomas Hume that is often cited as the beginning of the story of the Lake Michigan Triangle. Lake Michigan has a long history of mysterious shipwrecks, airplane crashes, unexplained disappearances, strange lights on the water, UFO activity, and much more. A lot of this activity is located in what is known as the Lake Michigan Triangle. The triangle spans from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, yay, our home, to Ludington, Michigan, and south to Benton Harbor, Michigan. So,
and then back up to Manitowoc.
And then back up. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's not that well known, but when you look up stuff about the Lake Michigan Triangle, it's out there.
Okay.
So the next one was October 30th, 1921. A ferry came across the wreck of the schooner Rosabelle. It was floating upside down with its aft section completely smashed, and its 11 passengers and crew were nowhere to be found. The captain of the ferry said that it looked like it had been in a collision with another ship, but no wreckage was found, and there were no reports of any missing ships or collisions that week. The mystery of what happened to the Rosabelle has never been solved.
So they never found any of the people?
Nope.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Even stranger was the fact that it was the second almost identical wreck for the Rosabelle. In August 1875, the vessel capsized in the same area and drifted ashore near Grand Haven, Michigan. 10 crew members were lost that day. The wreck was recovered at the time and rebuilt. So
I feel like I probably wouldn't go on that
Yeah.
ship.
So the crew, it was a crew of 10, and
a crew of 11 passengers.
but the first time
The first time it was 10. 10 crew members were lost the first time.
so everyone perished the first time
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And the second time.
Yeah.
And the second time. I
And
like
now I'm going to take a little 3 or 4 minute detour because I just read this and I thought it was super interesting. And, you know, it's our responsibility to to learn, you guys. You know,
we want you to be smart like us.
yeah. Sometimes, you know, we want to drop a knowledge bomb on your ass. Sure. This is us dropping a knowledge bomb.
Blow your mind.
Because I thought this was actually really interesting.
Okay.
The 11 people that were on board the Rosabelle were members of the House of David, a religious sect/cult that was based in Benton Harbor, Michigan. It was led by Benjamin Purnell, who claimed to be a messenger of God, of course. You know.
They always do.
Yeah. He claimed that God had told him that Jesus was about to return to usher in a restoration of the Garden of Eden, and Purnell prescribed a pure way of life focusing on entrepreneurship and hard work. By 1916, more than 1,000 people had joined the House of David. Their members weren't allowed to have sex, even when they were married. Male members were not allowed to cut their hair or to trim their facial hair in order to more resemble Jesus. Meat, alcohol, and tobacco were strictly forbidden, and personal property was not allowed, yet thousands of people joined them, and tens of thousands of people came to meet and visit them, loving the fun nature of the commune, who lived very freely and happily.
This doesn't sound fun at all.
I don't know. Looking up stuff
bummer.
about it, it was like
no
really
sex,
kinda,
no alcohol.
It was really good.
No
They actually sounded really kind of cool.
What?
They had their own
Kurt's
amusement.
drinking the Kool-Aid, apparently.
They had their own amusement park and large zoo, their own electricity plant, their own hospital, their own schools, dozens of their own businesses, and they built elaborate mansions to house all their followers. But one of their most legendary and enduring legacies was their baseball team.
Shut up.
The House of David baseball team began as a distraction from celibacy. So they began playing on the semi-pro circuit and quickly started to draw fans. It was partly due to their looks. In the clean-shaven era of the early 1900s, major league teams forbade players from having any facial hair whatsoever, and the House of David players had waist-long hair and full, lengthy beards, and it was shocking to people at the time.
Sure.
So people started bringing their kids to see the freaks playing baseball, or because they were curious themselves, but then they became fans because the team was actually really, really good.
Well, they had nothing else to do.
Exactly. Major league teams began scheduling exhibition games against them, and the major league teams often lost. For years, they reportedly had an average winning percentage of .750, which is really good, and often made it through a season without any losses. They were famous for their show-off game, similar to what would later become the Harlem Globetrotters' flashy play style on the basketball court. The House of David players would whip the ball back and forth to each other while dancing or make the ball apparently vanish into their beards. It fascinated the crowd. Despite their amazing skill and their fan base, they weren't allowed to play in any of the major leagues because of their appearance. Another league that was banned from playing in the majors based on their appearance, the Negro Baseball League, asked the House of David team to join them, and the House of David team became a huge part of the Negro Baseball League.
Really?
Yeah. The baseball team survived into the 50s, but for the most part, the main House of David came crashing down in the 1920s when more than a dozen girls in the colony told authorities they'd had sex with Benjamin Purnell while they were underage. Sex with the leader was presented to them as a necessary step in their salvation.
Oh, sure.
Cult leaders, stop it with the sex. It's always...
It's like a template. Everything you're talking about, there's like a perfect template
it's like
for every cult.
It's just weird.
No
you
sex,
get power, and then the power leads to you having sex with, underage people. There was a huge trial, and the sect ended up splitting into two different groups, which slowly dwindled away. But Michigan historian Debbie Boyer-Smith recently said, a lot of people think they're gone. A lot of people think they died out, but they haven't. There's only a couple left, but they're still here. So I thought that was...
When was that she said that?
I think 2 years ago.
Oh.
But I just thought that was a really interesting story about the baseball team.
That's very...
I'm curious, too, if
like
these mansions and,
I'm assuming they're still there.
Exist. Road trip.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought that was cool.
That's
those
really
are the people that disappeared on the
cool
Rosabelle.
in a disturbing way, but yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I've read a lot of stuff about cults. Like there's this Nexium one now that's in the news where that actress tried recruiting like sex slaves and all that crap.
Yeah, it's crazy. She was on
Superman. Was it Superman?
No, it was called something else though. It was about Superman. What was that called? I don't know. I didn't watch it. Smallville.
Yeah,
yes. She was an actress from Smallville, and she was recruiting
like
women
slaves
for like a sex cult.
Yeah.
Like human trafficking.
Yeah.
They were branding these women.
Yeah. That's messed up.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But I mean, of all the cults that I've ever heard about, these guys actually sounded kind of cool. You know, they really did. They didn't sound bad, other than the leader
controlling stuff.
Well, you know, I'm not defending them. I'm just saying that they sounded kind of cool.
Kurt would totally join.
Actually, on the baseball team.
You don't like sports?
I like baseball.
Oh, you do like baseball.
I do like
That's the one you
baseball.
like.
Playing baseball or just watching baseball?
Oh, God, I haven't played baseball since like the 80s, so probably not. But I love watching. I like watching Brewer games. I love having baseball on TV at home. I really do.
Least favorite sport.
Yeah, this is the last podcast you'll be on.
First and last.
First and
We're
last.
done.
Next case from the Lake Michigan Triangle. On April 28th, 1937, the lake freighter, the O.M. McFarland, picked up 9,800 tons of coal in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then headed west through the lakes bound for Port Washington, Wisconsin. Because it was early in the season, the lakes still had ice in them, which slowed the McFarland's progress. The ship's captain, George Donner, had remained on the bridge for hours, guiding his ship through the dangerous ice floes. When at last the ship turned into Lake Michigan, the exhausted captain left for his cabin with the instructions that he be called when the ship neared Port Washington. 3 hours later, as the McFarland neared Port Washington, the second mate went to the captain's cabin to awaken him as instructed, but the door was locked and the captain didn't answer the call. Thinking that Donner had gone to the galley for a late-night snack, the second mate checked the galley and learned that the captain hadn't been there. Going back to the captain's cabin, they broke down the locked door, but the captain wasn't in the room. The mate and other sailors began an exhaustive search of the vessel, but the captain could not be found. To this day, nobody knows what happened to him. You know, that's weird. I mean, could you just fall off a boat?
People fall off cruise ships all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they do.
You know, I know we kind of talked about this particular
Disappearance, yeah.
situation not too long ago, and you know, I was saying if the door was locked from the inside, could he have set the lock, closed the door, and then left? But even so, you know, I just sitting here listening to this again, I'm thinking, if he would have said, you know, jumped ship, or you would think that somebody
Would have heard
would
or
have
seen
seen,
something,
or
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right. So it's
And why would he do that?
I don't know.
Right,
You know,
right.
Some of the
would-
theories I read said possibly suicidal, but, you know, I don't know. It just didn't. That doesn't make a lot of sense for me.
Well, and there's nothing. We have no evidence to back up that he had any reason to want to commit suicide. Either,
Yeah.
So. Interesting.
So yeah, I mean that's kind of a big one when you look up this Lake Michigan Triangle stuff. Is the disappearance of George
and
Donner.
for him to have, I think the windows were locked too, right?
Yeah,
'Cause they checked
windows were locked.
and then
door was
normally,
locked.
you know, your windows on a ship are going to be
Locked from the inside.
and one small too. You know, a lot of times
Yeah.
they're the portholes, and you can't fit a human through it. But yeah, but they were locked too. So yeah, bizarre.
Yeah,
That
they
is
have
strange.
they have
This-
no idea what happened. No idea what happened to him. The next one, on June 23rd, 1950, Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501, a DC-4 aircraft, was flying from New York's LaGuardia Airport to Seattle, Washington. The aircraft was in good shape, and the captain, Robert C. Lind, had been flying the same route for over 5 years. Flight 2501 departed LaGuardia Airport at 7:31 that evening with 2 flight crew and 1 cabin crew member. There were 55 passengers on board, including 2 families traveling with their children and 3 pregnant women. As the flight neared Michigan, a storm began to whip up. At 9:30 p.m., the Weather Bureau issued a regional forecast predicting widespread thunderstorm activity and described the development of a dangerous squall line extending from southern Wisconsin eastward into lower Michigan and moving south. The southern edge of the squall line was located west of Benton Harbor, which is one of the corners of the triangle. Regional forecasts were not routinely broadcast, and the Flight Advisory Weather Service man did not ask air traffic control to warn flights about the squall line. Although the controllers had the information available, they did not think to do so either. The meteorologist at Northwest was not convinced that the squall line prediction was accurate, so no one at Northwest advised the flight crew of the forecast. That sounds like a lot of screw-ups on people's parts.
Yeah. Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
An eastbound aircraft at 5,000 feet was experiencing severe turbulence over Lake Michigan and was struggling to maintain its assigned altitude. Air traffic control estimated that the 2 aircraft would pass each other and was concerned that 1,000 feet separation wouldn't be enough because of the turbulence. At 11:13 p.m., the flight crew requested dropping their cruising altitude to 2,500 feet. They didn't say why, nor did they declare an emergency. Air traffic control declined the request as there was other traffic at that level. The flight crew acknowledged that the descent was not approved and the flight continued at 3,500 feet. That was the last radio transmission from Flight 2501. Throughout the night, when the flight wouldn't respond to any calls and couldn't be found on radar, people began to fear the worst. When the sun rose the following morning, a massive search and rescue operation was started. They loaded the boats with sonar equipment and sent divers down where strong sonar contacts were made. The entire area where it was believed the plane went down was dragged with hooks in the hopes of pulling something to the surface, but nothing came up. That evening, after 11 hours of searching, a U.S. Coast Guard cutter discovered an oil slick on Lake Michigan about 18 miles northwest of Benton Harbor, the southern edge of the squall the night of the accident. Meteorological reports confirmed that a squall line was located there at the time that the aircraft was believed to have crashed. The U.S. Coast Guard also found the aircraft logbook floating in the water. Further floating debris was found in the area, but they could not find the actual aircraft wreckage. They scoured the lake and the surrounding area for another day with no results. After 4 days, the Navy suspended their search because of the difficult conditions. The Coast Guard and aircraft flying in that area continued to watch for any sign of the missing aircraft, but the official search was over. The only pieces of the aircraft which were recovered were fragments which could float: foam rubber cushions, armrests, clothing, blankets, pillows, pieces of luggage, etc. There was no sign of fire on any of the debris recovered. Condition of the cushions and armrests showed that the aircraft must have struck the water at a very high speed. Then, shortly after that, body parts began washing up on shore. South Beach, an area popular with tourists, was forced to close because of the large number of body parts that began washing up.
Oh, Lord.
Nothing will ruin your family vacation like your
like a torso.
Yeah, like your kid dragging a torso up and down the beach.
This was reminding me of MH370 until the body parts started showing up.
Many of the parts were described as, quote, shredded. Coast Guard officials believe that there must have been some kind of huge midair explosion to disintegrate the bodies so badly. In 1950, this was the deadliest commercial airliner accident that the United States had ever experienced. The Civil Aeronautics Board, who was in charge of the investigation, could not determine a probable cause.
So they think that there must have been an explosion, but none of the
wreckage
had any fire damage.
Yeah.
The mystery continues to this day. All that is known is that the plane hit the water at a very high speed. It's possible that there was a mechanical failure mid-flight, but the aircraft was in good condition and a flight crew would have reported if there were any issues.
How many people were on board?
55 passengers and I think 15, 20 crew members?
No, 3 crew. It was a small crew.
It was a small crew.
I think it was 58 people. Yeah, 58 people.
So over 60 years later, the aircraft has still not been found, but there are groups that go out every year still to this day looking for it and cannot find it. There are reports that state that around 2 hours after the last communication with Flight 2501, 2 police officers reported seeing a strange red light hovering over Lake Michigan and disappearing after 10 minutes, leading some people to believe that a UFO was to blame.
It's aliens.
But a plane crash could happen for
any number of reasons.
No, I'm just wondering too if the plane hit the water hard enough, could it do that kind of damage to the bodies too? Could it shred?
Right, rather than an explosion midair.
Yeah.
I don't see why not. That's a pretty violent impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm flying to Kansas at the end of the month.
Oh, we're gonna
Really
have a
not
lot.
looking
Our next
forward to it.
episode will be all weird airplane
There
crashes.
you go.
Great.
Unexplained.
Next, on March 8th, 1994, in western Michigan, flickering lights resembling Christmas tree lights or a string of airplanes flying very close together and doing unusual maneuvers was reported to authorities by over 60 puzzled 911 callers. In a call between police and the National Weather Service, an officer says, quote, "We've had about 60 UFO calls," to which the operator audibly sighs and replies, "Oh, geez."
Oh, jeez.
Oh, geez. Oh, cripes.
I love stories where multiple witnesses
Yeah,
report
60, over
seeing
60
something.
people called about these lights, and oh, geez. The operator went on to say, yeah, there's something big down there. It's really strange. It's moving towards the west-southwest, looking like a big blob. It was up about 6,000 feet or so, and then it disappears. It's moving. After a brief silence, the operator says, I'm getting it now at about 12,000 feet. Oh my God, what is this? Now I'm getting 3 of them, and they're separated by about 5,000 feet in height. In describing the objects, the operator says, "I'm seeing 3. They look like a triangle on my scope. One by South Haven, another over Lake Michigan, and one right near Benton Harbor. I've never seen anything like this, not even when I'm doing storms," the operator says. "These are not storms." In the aftermath, researchers were able to say that whatever it wasn't a small plane, gas, a blimp, weather balloon, satellite, shooting stars, military aircraft, or debris. They still have no idea what the string of lights were.
Unidentified flying objects.
Yeah. Exactly.
Whether or not they were alien spacecraft, I don't know.
I don't know.
Clearly UFOs.
But yeah, when you had over 60 people calling in that they were seeing these things, I mean, there's something
that adds some validity to it. Yeah.
Yes. Next, in 2000, on May 22nd, there was a report from the air traffic controllers of the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago, Illinois, that for the past 5 weeks, they have been seeing images of ghost planes on their radar in the skies over the Lake Michigan Triangle. The ghost planes had become a complete terror for the air traffic controllers. They had to order many pilots to take sudden turns to avoid crashing into the appearing planes on their radar, and this involved taking big risks. These images appeared and disappeared mysteriously without explanation, not being caused by defects in the equipment, since the equipment was reviewed and was in fine working order. And I've read a lot about this, that, maybe it's some kind of weird radar.
Enough for them to redirect other airplanes, though? Or
Yeah,
divert
that's
them?
the thing,
That's
is that if they had to
crazy.
actually redirect, I'm assuming that they're used to seeing, like, false pings on the radar.
Sure.
So the fact that this freaked them out so much that these planes or whatever would appear on the radar. And this was, directly over the triangle area. Next one, and Rhonda and I talked about this on the drive down here. I thought this was interesting. In 2007, Mark Holley, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern in 2000,
Ooh,
Yeah.
I want to go there.
in 2000, shut up. No laughing.
Sorry.
In 2007, Mark Holley, a professor of underwater archaeology at Northwestern Michigan University College, and his colleague Brian Abbott were traveling across the lake in a ship that contained sonar equipment, which is generally used to examine old shipwrecks. After seeing something strange on their readings, they sent divers down to examine what they were seeing, and the divers found a Stonehenge-like ring of rocks that appeared to have been placed in formation, including a boulder which is believed to feature a prehistoric carving of a mastodon, an animal believed to have gone extinct about 10,000 years ago. Research has been continuing on what many people have called the Lake Michigan Stonehenge, with many people claiming that this site may be responsible for the strange occurrences that happened in the Lake Michigan Triangle.
I feel like, how have I never heard about any of this stuff?
I don't know. The truth is that other stone circles and other petroglyph sites have been located in the Great Lakes, and ancient structures underneath large bodies of water in general are not that unusual.
Okay.
But a lot of people believe that this has something to do with the weird activity around the triangle.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw pictures, they have pictures of it online and stuff, and it's actually, like, they had a picture of the mastodon, the carving.
We should post that on our Facebook page.
It was really interesting, and I mean, this research on this continues.
What I think is interesting is researchers will not give the specific location.
I'm assuming they don't want people ever going down there.
Right.
I'm diving is something that I never want to do.
I'm too claustrophobic.
I'm afraid of drowning as it is, plus being enclosed in like a suit that's like two of my biggest fears.
With a mask.
Yeah, two of my biggest fears right there.
Yeah.
So no, I would never in a million years do that. But I'm sure if they said where it was, you'd have tons of people going down there and chipping pieces of stone off the stones and stuff.
And if it's truly 9,000 or 10,000 years old,
that's a historic artifact. Right. You don't want to be taking souvenir pieces of it. But yeah, you never heard of that?
No.
Lake Michigan Stonehenge?
None of this stuff.
Yeah.
Clearly, I don't Google this enough. Or ever.
This last one isn't exclusive to the triangle, but there are reports of it being seen in the vicinity of the triangle. In September of 1679, the supply ship Le Griffin, which I believe in French means the Griffin.
I'm like perplexed. I'm like, oh, wait for it. Wait for it. Okay.
D+ I got in my 1 year of French class. Help there. Le Griffin left Green Bay to sail back to Niagara with a load of fur. After leaving the harbor on Washington Island, the ship completely vanished. Weather conditions were reported favorable, but
That's
the
where
ship...
Death's Door is, too.
Yeah,
It's right off of
Death's Door is
Washington
up there.
Island.
Yep. But the ship and its crew of 6 men were never seen again. Many people at the time blamed the disappearance on an alleged curse that had been placed upon the vessel by an Iroquois witch doctor with the name of Mediomac. It's kind of a cool name. Who had believed that the ship was offensive to the great spirit of the lake. In the centuries since the ship's disappearance, sailors on Lake Michigan have claimed to see the ghostly outlines of the 3-masted, antiquated ship emerge suddenly out of a fog bank. But just when the ship seems about to collide, the Griffin vanishes. Others swear that the Griffin can be glimpsed on foggy nights still sailing out of Green Bay Harbor, and many witnesses have reported seeing the ship from shore sailing off into the distance. Not surprisingly, sighting the lost Griffin is regarded as a sign of very bad luck.
So this is probably one of those ships that looks like a pirate ship or something, right?
Yeah,
So
and there's a lot of there's a lot of reports of people seeing this ghost ship. So I thought that was really interesting. Ghost ships are kind of creepy. I don't know.
Is the crew still on there? Are all the passengers still on there?
But there were a lot of people reportedly seeing this ship.
There's just something really eerie about the water in general.
Yeah.
So imagine seeing something that shouldn't be there.
No, like I said, the fog on the lake is just creepy. And to see something like that in the fog on the lake, no thanks. Other stories from the Triangle include 2-pound ice chunks falling onto a tugboat from what crew members described as a cloudless sky in 1883 and countless UFO sightings. Many of these mysterious objects are seen coming out of the water and are called unidentified submerged objects. And there's a lot of reports of people seeing UFOs actually come out
of the water
of Lake Michigan. There's a lot of people that believe there's a base under Lake Michigan.
Really?
Yeah, and people say, what better place to hide an
Underwater.
underground base, underwater where people aren't going to go. So, yeah.
Okay, UFOs underneath water that are coming?
Yeah,
Okay,
but there's
so
a base underneath the water.
Okay, so
Yeah, there's people that see them
launch
actually
out of the
come up
water.
out of the water and take off.
Okay, not like a government type thing.
Oh, there's people that believe there's a government type thing under the
Sure.
lake too, but you don't know. And lastly, we're going to get to a story that was written by Kathy Dorr for the website labyrinthia.com. Rhonda actually was researching
weird,
and she found the same story. This is one of the few firsthand account stories.
Does it have a burrito recipe?
No, this one is not. This one is not mixed up with a burrito recipe.
No,
a
sorry.
steak burrito.
Sorry to disappoint, Krista.
So this is Kathy's story. Early summer 1978, a perfect night for a sail with 7 or 10 knot winds, flat seas, and it was midweek. We had the complete lake to ourselves. I was aboard one of 3 classic wooden sailboats, part of an active racing crew that competed every Sunday and practiced maneuvers several times a week. Around dusk on this hot summer's night, we set sail for what should have been an idyllic cruise. As fate would have it, the gods had something different in mind. Ooh.
Dun, dun, dun.
More like...
I was waiting for somebody to say that.
Okay.
Less than an hour out of port, and quite unexpectedly, a dense fog rapidly descended upon us. Visibility dropped to 0. We became disoriented and feared we'd crash into one another. The winds were erratic, filling the mainsail from 2 opposing directions, a phenomenon that none of us had experienced before this evening. I leaned over the rail and looked at the surface of the lake. It was calm with very little movement. Strangely, a few seconds later, I righted myself and I found that I was extremely cold. In fact, I was freezing. I turned towards the helm to ask my crewmates if they were cold also, and to my utter astonishment, they were no longer standing next to me. One moment we had been packed in the tiny cockpit like sardines, and the very next instant I was alone at the helm. Dumbfounded, I called out and located them standing up on the aft deck where it was several degrees warmer. They seemed perplexed and urged me to join them. That's when I noticed that no one was steering the boat. The captain raised his arms high over his head, gleefully wiggling his hands and fingers in the air, and stated that he hadn't been steering for the last 10 minutes. Yet, not 1 minute before, I was certain he had been standing next to me at the helm. Draped in dense fog, the vessel began a curious aquatic dance. Slowly but deliberately, she turned on her axis, completing 3 perfect 360-degree turns without ever crossing the wind. Then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the fog vanished. To our astonishment, we saw the other 2 boats, all within a few hundred yards of each other, rotating in exactly the same manner.
Oh, that's creepy.
A moment later, we all regained control of our vessels and pulled out of this vortex. In unison, all 3 boats turned and headed for port. Sailing home over an absolutely smooth, glass-like sea beneath the newly risen full moon, I found myself enfolded in the tangible presence of my recently deceased father. My crewmates, too, all seemed lost in an inexplicable rapture, the only sound being an occasional splash on the rail. We noticed the lead boat entering the anchorage. It had once belonged to our captain, and we knew it well. As we approached the tiny inlet, we found our old mooring empty, our sister ship nowhere in sight. All was quiet. We scanned the horizon for mass movement to no avail. We were the only vessel underway. We couldn't imagine where they could have gone. In fact, there was no place they could have gone. We set out in search of them, carefully navigating under sail in and out of the moorings that our fleet called home. Circling around a few minutes later, we were shocked to find that our sister ship was not only tied up with its sails stowed, but the crew was in their dinghy rowing ashore, an impossibility in such a short span of time. Nothing added up. Time either stood still or sped up. After the 3rd boat arrived, everybody met on shore. This usually loud group seemed dazed and wanted nothing more than to go home and go to sleep. I looked at my watch. It was now after midnight. It seemed we'd been out for no more than 3 or 4 hours instead of over 6 hours. As the weeks passed, I realized we could not account for a good portion of that evening. The following Sunday, as we readied ourselves for the big race, I brought up the unusual events from our extraordinary sail. To my astonishment, no one would talk about it. Worse yet, they behaved as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. The winds alone would have given them something to talk about for years. It became evident that I was the only one in remembrance. Our captain has since passed away, and I've lost contact with the old sailing gang. However, I've told this story many times, calling it my Lake Michigan Triangle story. Years later, I would learn of a book by Jay Gourley written about the mysterious appearances and disappearance of boats and airplanes in the Great Lakes. Over the years, I've come to realize that the circumstances of that night might very well have been for my benefit, another in a series of extraordinary events earmarking my remarkable journey of life. So yeah, that's really weird.
Lost time freaks me out.
Yeah, lost time totally freaks me out.
I've never experienced it.
That's something that I would have a really hard time with.
Yeah, not knowing what happened.
Yeah, and I'm not somebody that can just pretend it didn't happen, because that is...
I'd spend the rest of my life trying to figure it out, probably.
Yeah.
How frustrating it would be to try to talk to those people and none of them would talk to you about it.
Yes.
That would be really hard, because then you're kind of alone in it.
But that happened with that.
I think then you question your own sanity.
Right.
That alien, one of the famous alien abduction stories. It's like they wouldn't talk about what happened that night.
Was it the guys in the forest?
Yes. Yeah. Where they
Fire in the Sky, the movie they made?
Yeah, where they didn't want to talk about what happened that night. So, but I love the imagery.
They were on an episode of like Paranormal Witness, though. Was that one that we watched?
Yeah.
I remember that.
But I like the story. I love the imagery of the 3 ships all spinning.
I have to say, of the research that I did on the Lake Michigan Triangle, I think this was the most...
That kind of gave me the chills.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, this was definitely the
most...
most
those are just like old-timey
eerie
ship stories. This is really creepy and eerie. Yeah.
Yes.
But now that we're getting towards the end of this, I am honestly kind of surprised that there wasn't more. I heard so much about the Lake Michigan Triangle, and I thought there'd be a lot more weird stuff.
There's probably all kinds of stuff that happens out there that nobody posts online.
But this was really all... I looked at a lot of different sites about it, and this was really all I could find. There's a lot of reports of mysterious UFOs and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And but these were the big ones. These were the big stories. Like, one of the bigger ones is the Stonehenge.
Yeah, that's really interesting. To think that there could be something underground that is caught underground, under the water, that's kind of causing all of this. Yeah.
I know in some of my research, I came across what it's called ley lines.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Yeah. And that, ley lines are like a matrix of magnetic pathways that are crisscrossing over the earth, rather. And that people believe that, like, these ancient... places,
like the
pyramids,
right?
Stonehenge, all
like
those
they
are
crisscross.
based on, because there's like power, like
energy.
like an energy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, ley lines are interesting. I mean, I wouldn't mind even having a mini mystery about ley lines themselves,
on how they can create like vortexes.
Yep. But yeah, there's a lot of people that believe that's like what the Bermuda Triangle is where 2 ley lines cross is where.
So I find that kind of interesting, like with the one story out of Green Bay that you were talking about, the one ship.
Yeah.
Because the Lake Michigan Stonehenge is near like the Traverse City, Michigan area, which is kind of further northern, up the coast more. Like Green Bay is further up the coast of Wisconsin. So, that would kind of make sense then if there is any truth behind the ley lines.
Yeah.
That,
it would.
The mysterious disappearance of the ship and...
Yeah, that's really cool, though.
No, I think, I don't know if I even think it's a triangle. I think Lake Michigan is just kind of weird on its own. Maybe there isn't a specific triangle.
Well, it sounds like a lot of it is concentrated
But
over
there's a lot of
specific
people
area.
that say that the weather is unique. The weather and pattern is really unique above Lake Michigan. It's responsible for a lot of, like, squalls come up out of nowhere.
So did you Rhonda, have stuff you were going to share from some of your coworkers? Stories?
Not a lot, but one of my coworkers on the is one of the mates on the car fare, and I just had reached out to him, saying that I was doing some research on the Lake Michigan Triangle, and he let me see here, he had said that he has seen strange things from time to time. Lights that can't be explained, eerie shapes in the fog.
That's creepy.
So that I asked like for clarification then as far as like the lights. Are you, like on the horizon or in the sky?
Yeah.
And his response was, odd lights are usually in the sky, though we've seen strange things on the water too. He said it's probably a legitimate explanation, but some are very weird, very fast-moving lights or odd patterns. Seeing the odd shapes coming out of the fog and stuff. So
that's cool.
That is cool. That's creepy though.
And I mean, he's
the shapes thing freaks me out.
Yes,
That
fog,
could be anything.
yes. And he's somebody I totally trust that he's not just making this
Pulling
up
your
or
chain.
Right.
or just he's a reputable
Yeah.
gentleman. So
Okay.
Have you seen anything weird on your
my
car ferry
crossings.
crossings?
No.
Will you pay more attention now?
Oh my God, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a rumor that's gone around the ship that, that the ship is haunted, that there was a passing in one of the staterooms that someone
I'm guessing
had,
at some point someone had to pass away
that
on
someone
the ship.
had gotten, because the staterooms have berths, beds that fold up into the wall and
Like a Murphy bed?
kind of,
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
like along the lines, and that someone had gotten the berth had kind
got
of
stuck in there?
released, and they got
Ugh.
trapped in the berth.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a horrifying
and
way to go.
That is
So
a
it's
horrifying
just
way to go.
rumors.
Death
I
by
myself
bed.
have never experienced it, but talking with some of the other crew members, there have been.
So what
some,
kind of activity?
like the kind of the door closing by itself. It doesn't sound like people want to clean in that room.
Oh.
Like after there have been people in there, and
Right away, I'm thinking, okay, you're on a moving ship. A door closing by itself doesn't seem all that
Right.
spectacular.
but they clean the staterooms when the ship is docked.
Ported? Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. So the ship
Interesting.
isn't necessarily moving.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if it's a windy enough day and the waves are bad enough, it still can rock on
Sure.
when it's docked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't
That's
think
interesting. I don't
You
have
should
to-
ask if
Yeah.
we can do an investigation.
Yeah.
I know, right?
We could do a live episode on the
Right there,
That'd
you go.
be so
car
cool.
ferry. And one last thing is that there are reports that, aware of the curious incidents over the Great Lakes, the Federal Aviation Administration several years ago instituted a special category of unidentified aircraft sightings and also created the Lake Reporting Service, where pilots on Great Lakes overflights make continuous reports to ground stations. A 10-minute delay in such a report automatically launches a search and rescue operation.
Wow.
Like they know something weird is going on.
Yeah. Huh.
Crazy.
So yeah, that is the Lake Michigan Triangle.
That's pretty cool. It's right at our doorstep.
Yeah,
you know?
it is right at our doorstep. People that from like different parts of the country probably are like, who cares? But Lake Michigan is really cool. It is
really cool.
like being on
I think-
being on the ocean. It
It
is like
is.
being
I
on,
think people think that a lake. Oh, I'm going to be able to see across.
No.
But
Oh, no.
It
Yeah.
amazed me when I
No.
took the car ferry that 2 years ago or whatever that was when you let me on. I was like one of the first people on.
You're lucky I let you on.
I know. How long it took to get across the lake. I assumed that it would be quicker than that.
It's 58 miles. It's a
Yeah.
4-hour.
Yeah.
Flower
A
crossing.
good friend of mine who grew up in Illinois, who obviously Chicago's on Lake Michigan. She had read a book that I think like Al Capone or somebody, like was Al Capone New York gangster or something? Was he New York?
Yeah, Chicago.
Well, that must have been a different gangster, because whoever it was, when they came to Chicago, probably to see Al Capone, they went to Lake Michigan and said, "What ocean is this?" Because it's so big and vast, and you would never realize that it's just a lake. It's so huge.
Yeah. And when we did the Mothman stuff, some of the Chicago Mothman sightings were over Lake Michigan. So I mean, there's that too, where people see, these flying things.
That kind of died down now, didn't it? I haven't really read anything about
Barry
that.
sent me an article that there was a report. Hi, Barry. That there was a report.
Hey, Bear.
Last April, I think it was, of
So last month.
No, last April. I think it was like a year
ago.
But it might have been
because we've talked about it since then.
We'll discuss that on the next episode. But there was another story that just came out about Mothman sightings in Wisconsin, and this was like inland.
Wisconsin?
This was like inland Wisconsin. This wasn't like on the lake.
Was it southern Wisconsin?
I believe it was down by Madison. I might be wrong.
That's like western Wisconsin.
Yeah, we'll discuss that we'll have news. That'll be in housekeeping on our next episode.
Okay, yeah, sweet.
So that is the Lake Michigan Triangle. What do you guys think?
I think there's something to it.
I think there is too, but I think some of the stuff is just,
it could just be
stuff happens.
Geographical, like
a storm will whip up and it'll mess up a plane and a plane will crash.
Sure.
I mean, some of the stuff is mysterious, like the captain disappearing from his locked.
That's weird. Yeah, that's really weird.
Yeah. So that stuff is weird.
I like I said, I definitely found the
story.
Kathy Doerr's
story was interesting.
That gives me the chills thinking about.
Yeah.
So.
But like I was saying earlier too, I don't. Again, if you're not from this area, I don't know that people realize, first of all, how big the lake is and how treacherous it can get. I mean, you're talking upwards of 75 mile per hour winds, and
there's
like
always reports of people like go swimming or go boating, and then they find their bodies.
Yeah,
because a storm will whip up out of nowhere. The waves will get crazy out of nowhere.
Yeah. One thing I did come across too in some of my research is, of course, people try to explain away, but some people believe that when you have different magnetic fields colliding, like in powerful thunderstorms, especially over bodies of water, that the metallic highly charged fog kind of acts as a magnet then, and it attracts.
Yeah, I could totally buy that.
Yeah, to metallic objects.
Yeah.
Airplanes or nowadays boats. I mean, back in the day, of course, boats were made out of wood, and
especially with the weird storm activity over the lake, I could totally see that being a theory.
And then of course, if that is true with magnetic whatever, that can of course cause havoc on the
electrical equipment.
Yep. And
that's an interesting theory.
It is.
Yeah. And some people believe that electromagnetic energy itself can affect the fabric of time, and I don't know about that, but I don't know. It's interesting.
I think it could.
It can certainly affect how you feel.
For sure.
Maybe that's what they all ran into in her story.
Yeah.
Yeah, her story was weird.
That's pretty cool.
It was creepy. I loved it.
Now I'm afraid to go out on the lake. So let us know what you guys think about the Lake Michigan Triangle. Is it bunk or is it plausible? I guess that one ship that they found, that it looked like it had collided with another ship, but they couldn't find what it collided with. That was pretty weird too.
Yeah, that is odd.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I expected more strangeness. I'm always kind of a buzzkill with this.
Wah, wah. You're a real Debbie Downer.
But we all know, being paranormal investigators, that a good investigator will try to, you do want to try to debunk too before claiming something as...
What there is of the weirdness that has happened is actually pretty weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stories about it.
It's not just a little weird, it's really weird.
Yeah. And it got us on Ancient Aliens with the guy with the hair.
Oh my God. I love that guy.
So do I. So now we are going to go on to our listener question or questions. We may have
checked
time.
It lately? I'm curious.
I don't think anybody asked anything lately.
Really?
Come on, guys.
Ask. Still like 8 or so.
We're on 12, but I think we were on 12 last time. So ask some more questions, you guys. It's on our strangers.
They're probably not asking questions because we don't get to them. There's still 12 on there that we haven't read.
Good point. So Rhonda, you're going to be involved with these.
Okay.
Did you ask the one about where you get your hair done?
Yeah, she asked about the hair done one. Are you the one that asked if Krista and I ever hooked up?
That was not me.
Because she knows the
I know the
answer.
answer.
All right.
Don't you all want to know?
She'll tell you. She'll
so
tell you
it's
for
not
a
that
fee.
exciting.
All right, here we go. Who does your hair? That was around us.
And thank you, seriously, for explaining. I should know. I should remember who does your hair, Kurt.
Right.
But yours, Krista. Thank you.
Somebody said, who is your most awesome bestie for over 10 years?
You don't have to say me because I know. I know Jim and Jamie are
Jim and Jamie. Jamie I've known since, I think,
longest.
first grade.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie
who
was,
did our-
Hey,
he was on our Area
Jamie.
51 episode.
Area 51.
Yep.
Yep.
Who was your
Music.
most awesome bestie for over 10 years? I'll have to, Jamie. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just home this past week, him and his wife.
He's probably the one who submitted the question because he
probably
just
was.
wanted to hear.
Probably was.
He wanted to hear you say it, Kurt.
Him and his wife Missy had a lot of good things to say about the podcast. He was in our Area 51 episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with Jamie as my best, longest friend. You? Rhonda?
Oh my God. My best, longest friend. Holy crap. That's really putting me on the spot.
This is what we do here. This is all off the cuff.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh. I have to think a moment.
Would you call them your besties, though, if you're just in contact with them?
What bugs me about this, though,
Probably
is that
not.
they ask.
Is it Kurt?
Yeah, probably that I've
Aw,
stayed.
thank you.
That I'm still in contact on on a fairly
Constant, regular basis.
Yeah, would definitely Oh man,
We're getting all sappy. We're getting all sappy
Kurt's
here.
sitting over there like, I can't believe she's not saying right now.
Right, what's taking her so long? Hello?
I'm just thinking the way the question is phrased, who is your most awesome bestie for over 10 years? It's like somebody wants us to say them.
Right.
And I'm going to feel bad if we don't say them.
Well, it's not. I mean, so I have the people I'm in contact with the most I've known for probably 20 years, my girlfriends, like Nicole, Nikki B. But I actually do have a lifelong best friend since birth, like literally since birth. And her name also happens to be Nikki. Yeah. So, but yeah, literally 41 years we've been best friends. So.
That's so awesome.
I would say Jamie. But
stood up in her wedding.
But even though I don't think it's legal, I would go with Corey, my brother, because he's one of my very best friends, and I've known him since he was a wee little Corey, since he was born.
Wee little baby Corey.
So thank you
Wee
for
little lad.
Thank you for whoever submitted that.
Hope
And
we
have
said your
time-
name.
We have time. I hope we said your name. We're going to get unfriended by somebody.
Yep.
Now we're going to have time for another question. In honor of last week's episode, that must have been the John Teeter one.
I was going to say.
In honor of last week's episode,
Is that our last episode as John Teeter? No, it was
no,
the
but
Dybbuk box.
that's what I think this is referring to. Is
Oh, because these are old.
God, this is a good question. I don't know who asked this, but this is a really good question. In honor of last week's episode, would you rather have a 1-minute conversation with your past self or with your future self?
Ooh, my God,
That
that's
is a good
really good question.
I would,
My future self.
my past self. I would want to tell my past self stuff.
But your past self, I guess it doesn't know yet.
No, I'd be telling my past self,
You
Don't
know what,
do
though?
this.
don't do certain things, do certain
If you
things.
have a 1-minute conversation with your future self, you're also having a 1-minute conversation with your past self.
Right?
Wow,
So is that
you just blew
I
my
know.
mind.
Mind blown. I don't know. Is this a trick question? I know because I'm thinking that too. It's like, okay, I
I feel like there's no wrong answer.
This is a really good question, though,
Yeah.
because I have to legitimately think about this. I think it would be my past self because I want to tell,
But what if your future self wants to tell you something better than what you want to tell your past self?
damn.
Again,
No, because I think if I told my
blown.
past self stuff, it would
you're
make
already
it would
in the
make my
present.
future self even better because I wouldn't have made the mistakes in life that I made.
But the
But
you'd
the
have the
mistakes
same
we are going to
outcome
continue.
talking
I was
to your
going to
future
say
self.
we're going to. I was going to say, are we going to continue to make mistakes?
It's like such a
I
weird
don't know.
question.
Why does
It's
this
like
have to be so complicated?
I'm going with past self. I wish I could have a 1-minute conversation with my past self and tell myself
I
to.
think so too. I think I would go with my past.
I'm saying future because it's the same thing.
You would just ask for like winning lottery numbers or something.
No.
Yeah.
But why? I would not want the me from 10 years ago to talk to the me from now because I feel like the me from 10 years ago would be disappointed at how I turned out.
My God. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like if I went back now and
confused.
I went back now and talked to me from 10 years in the past.
Yeah.
The me from
He'd
10
be
years
like,
in the
dude,
past.
you have an awesome podcast. Wow.
Right.
Kick ass.
I don't know. I feel like I have more bad things to say than good things.
Oh, Kurt.
I'm just saying.
Do we need to have an intervention?
I'm just saying. I'm sticking with I would love to have a 1-minute conversation with my past self.
So not so you could learn, your present self could learn anything, so your past self could learn
So my
from
past
you.
self could learn to avoid things that I should have avoided or to do things that I should have done.
Amen.
Because I think I'd be happier.
Then that would change who you are now.
That's not necessarily a bad thing.
I was going to say it could, yeah.
Have you watched Back to the Future? I might not exist now, Kurt.
That's true. Oh, then you get all sorts of quantum entanglement and all that stuff in there.
Gosh.
So, wow, that was a
My head hurts
that was
now.
a heavy question.
Remember, I'm the slow one. I want another question. How many do we have left? Let's do another one.
We'll do one more.
I feel like we could do a whole podcast just people asking.
No,
that was a heavy question. Thank you for whoever asked that. That was a good question. All right. Next question.
Kurt probably asked that one.
Right.
Maybe I did,
Boy,
but I told
this guy might be real. He
But
must be
you
really
told your
smart.
past
I told my past self to ask that question.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Okay. Shut up. I'll fire you so fast.
This is an old school media production.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You're getting fired.
Last question. Would you rather spend the day wearing wet socks or spend the day with a popcorn kernel stuck in your teeth?
Oh.
Wet socks, because popcorn kernel stuck in your teeth sucks.
I'd go with the kernel.
Oh, I'd go with the wet socks.
Popcorn kernel.
Is it like
It didn't say.
painful?
I was going to say they didn't. Yeah, they didn't
No,
say
but it's
that.
still annoying. I
but
hate
wet
having a popcorn
socks.
kernel stuck in
Yeah,
my
you can
teeth.
you eventually can ignore it. Wet
No,
socks.
you can't
Because then
ignore
your feet get cold,
So what?
and oh my God, if you have cold feet, you're cold to the bone. You can
You can
never
get blisters from wet
warm
socks.
up. It's hard to warm up.
I would
then.
rather live with that than the annoyance of a popcorn kernel stuck in my teeth. Because there is nothing that's more annoying than that.
I'm going
The only thing
kernel.
more annoying than that is an
Oh,
eyeball
girl.
twitch that won't stop.
We're high
You're the
fiving
odd-
over
you're-
popcorn.
You guys are-
You're
you
the
guys are doing
odd. You're the odd ball out this time, Kurt.
Whatever.
Whatever.
You're
Although
both
I have
fired.
to say,
I'm doing the podcast by myself from now on.
I do keep toothpicks around because I hate getting stuff stuck in my teeth.
So do I. Weren't you just using
She
a?
was just-
weren't you just
was.
using a?
Having a
Post-it.
little small little meltdown.
she was just using an.
Toothpicks.
She was just using an index card as a toothpick because she had something stuck in her teeth. So
It
Got
was really small and it didn't hurt at all.
And you got to improvise.
still, I'm.
Those would you rather questions just drive me crazy,
I
actually.
am full on board with.
Because they're always two really annoying or horrifying things that we did a Paranormal Palaver episode, a Would You Rather episode that was like horrifying.
No, wet socks all day long. Maybe it's a hot day and it would feel good. You know, depends on
Okay,
what they were. It also
I'll give you
depends on
that.
what they were wet with because some might-
Urine.
yeah. If it's my urine, that's not
You'd
so
have
bad.
like
If it's somebody
prune
else's
toes
urine,
by the end of the day too. Your feet would be all
Pruny
white
toes are
and
gross.
wrinkly.
yeah, moist.
Like
Oh,
I could
boy.
deal with the kernel in my tooth much easier.
All right, I think we're gonna go off the rails here pretty soon. So I think we'll start wrapping this
That
up.
ship has sailed.
The ship has sailed and sunk in
intended.
the triangle.
Literally.
So that's it for this week's episode. Rhonda, thank you for sitting in. You're actually going to be back in not the next episode, but the one after, because I
The
think that's our
EVP?
EVP episode.
Sweet.
Ooh, awesome.
Yep,
Can't
and
wait.
you're even
June.
on some of our E EVPs.
Good.
Do you have any you want to provide?
Disclaimers.
You'll have to go through your EVPs and
Kurt probably actually has.
Yeah, I still have all the good E EVPs.
He did the.
Sherry at work listened to the Paranormal Palaver where they played my stomach gurgle one, and she said she laughed so
demonic
hard.
stomach gurgle.
So we'll play that on
Every
the EVP.
time on an investigation. Every time.
Even when we were here investigating the school, Krista would laugh because my stomach just gurgles nonstop.
crazy.
It's possessed.
It is.
It might be the Chinese food that you eat.
or whatever I shove into my face hole.
Well, thanks
Garbage
guys for
omelets,
letting me actually sit in on one of these.
Well, thank you for finally
meant
coming.
to
so
Yeah.
curious. I've been
Yeah.
so curious to see how
Now
this
you
all.
got to see the old school
Yeah, and
media
see how this
studio.
all works
You got to
and
see
stuff.
the
It was
recording
really cool.
technicians in the other room. You got to
Yep.
meet them.
Yep.
So
No,
Super
we
hot.
don't allow anyone to meet
well,
them.
I introduced them to Rhonda.
Oh.
Yeah, she didn't. She didn't take pictures of any of the top secret equipment.
You didn't give them any food, did you?
No.
Okay.
I did not feed them.
We don't allow them to eat.
Per instructions, yes.
Give them some of those spicy pepperoni jerky things.
Oh, I forgot about those.
Yeah, I bought Krista a couple bags of those because she really liked
I don't
them.
get cranky when I eat them.
I didn't get cranky. I got whiny.
You did
I got
too.
whiny.
Whiny.
That was whiny. That wasn't cranky.
Wow. I wasn't here
pouty.
to experience.
Pouty.
You
Yeah,
sounded,
pouty.
yes. You griping the whole thing.
Okay, I did not sound like that.
You were pretty whiny. Yeah.
Whatever.
He's going to edit all this out.
Yeah. I'm going to edit all this out.
Only say cool things about
Bloopers.
me.
So thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
We will be back soon.
Oh, hey, can I mention one thing?
No.
He said he's already signing off. Forget it. You're done.
I really want to ask people to go rate us on iTunes, because iTunes is like a really it's a really good vehicle for getting your podcast out there, and the more ratings you get and good ratings you get on iTunes, the further like up the list it goes. I hear people on podcasts all the time saying, please go rate us on iTunes, and we've never once said it.
No.
So I don't even know how to tell you to do it, but
No.
someone
You
else
can be in
figure
charge
that
of
out.
monitoring that because
That's
I
Joe's
get,
job.
Okay.
Joe does monitor
I stress
us.
too much when somebody gives us like a bad rating.
I know, right?
I take that stuff really
stew over
personally.
it like
I
50
shouldn't, but I take that stuff really personally.
So Joe is monitoring that from
Okay.
Old School Media, and he
Okay.
said that the Strange Sessions blows all of our podcasts out of the water. I think even including the one we do for our job at Johnsonville.
Oh,
So.
thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you,
But
listeners.
if you go to if you're not already rating us or haven't rated us on iTunes, please go do that. It'll
Yes,
only
please
take you
rate
a few
us on
seconds.
iTunes.
It'll make a big difference. So
If you don't like us, rate us. So let us know.
no, don't do that.
Well,
No.
let us know what we
If
can
you
improve.
don't like them, just stop
Don't listen.
listening. Right.
We've
Let-
gotten some really good
We have
ratings
got-
on Facebook too.
Yeah,
so
we
thank
have.
you guys.
So thank you guys for the good ratings.
This one lady's, we should have read it, but it was really funny. It made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
She
Yep.
was really good.
Yes.
So I can't remember her name, and I apologize, but maybe we'll read it next time.
Well, you guys
I
do
thought it
have
was really
very funny banter.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We do have good banter.
You
Yeah.
do.
But then I always worry, do people want the banter or do they just want the topic?
They
Do
can
they
fast
just want-
forward to the banter.
Right. We stuck
We're not
to our
gonna please
15-minute
everybody.
rule today.
Yeah, we're not going to please everybody,
No.
but we're thankful for the people that we do please.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh.
That was
Now we got to mark it
deep.
explicit.
Now it's going to be now it's getting to the pay podcast. Late
Paper
night, strange
podcast.
sessions, late night. See how strange
Sexy
it can
sessions.
get. The sexy sessions. All right, we're going to go, folks. So so thank you for listening. Thank you, Rhonda, for joining us.
you.
And until next time,
Stay strange.
This has been an Old School Media production, executive produced by Kurt Konechny. For more information and content, please visit strangesessions.com.